Welcome back to the Loud Sound Epicenter podcast. Glad to be back. Been missing you guys. Been thinking about you guys, and I just don't even know where to begin. I mean, I said some things in the last stream. Want to keep Replay Gang in mind, but I talked about what was that, January or February, that I was going through the pre-social media internet, and I was checking out some subcultures, and it really seemed to be the beginning of what I've been obsessed with lately. And we're going to get into that, among other things, because I have some stuff in mind that I think you guys would be interested in. So I just wanted this to be a casual stream. I wanted it to be a catch-up stream. And I haven't been streaming, but I just want this channel to be a communication tool to reach out to you guys who aren't on Twitter. And if you've seen my Twitter, you've probably have some insight into what I'm going to talk about. But I'd like to rekindle with some of my favorite people. Yo, Charles, let's go. Yeah, man. Thank you. Well, I guess, first of all, it's been a busy semester. So obviously that's more important, but I think enough things have happened that warrant a stream. And so I want you guys to kind of be a part of some of these developments. So let me check my Twitter, which, by the way, I'm sorry for the clickbait title. For those that don't know, who may have maybe not checked, but my Twitter is back. I am on Twitter. I think I filed an appeal and I got my account reinstated. I'm not exactly sure what happened. You can probably imagine, but I'm just glad that it's back. I'm grateful for it. And I would just like us to reconnect or connect for the first time online. So I want you guys to be plugged in. And I will use that to check out our first topic. Well, first of all, when gosh, there was even another. Okay, hold on a sec. All my tabs. If you guys remember the tabs. Okay, let's use these two. And we have, gosh, okay. So that was about a month ago, the last stream. Wow, so all these things happened, I guess, right after or around that time. So, all right. Well, thank you, George Puente. Oh, I got I forgot I had a Telegram. Let me check that out. I'm sorry, guys, that it's let me find it. Okay. Okay. For the sake of Replay Gang, let's get started. So first of all, gosh. Okay, well, how about this? So I introduced my dad to Blue Velvets, and I don't know what his impression was of David Lynch prior to, but I think I've been raving about Lynch for some time. I remember trying to like interject it into the conversation, and it wouldn't always go specifically where I wanted, but it finally happened. Let me see what the date is, because I think we have this documented. For the date. Oh, that's another thing. Okay. Where are we at? Is it that? Hold on. When was this? Also, if you have any questions, of course, take advantage of us having this conversation here. I want us to be engaged platonically. Where is the David Lynch tweet? Sorry about this. Okay, sorry about this. So that was about February 25th. So like some of these developments might be sooner than others, but so I introduced it to him, and you know, this should be, I think this should be treated as a big deal in certain regards, because I think, and I guess we can make this the theme of this stream. For those that don't know, what is this channel about? What am I trying to do here? How am I different from other channels? What's the angle? Some people wonder about the M&M. Somebody said that in chat. And it seemed like I was with Thomas for an extensive period, and then there were gaps. You had those speeches. It seems like this thing is a hodgepodge. But really, if you've read Jonathan Bowden's Pulp Fascism, if you've read writers from the 1970s, maybe Tom Wolfe might be an appropriate example. I am trying to make this channel a Generation Z epicenter, okay? Maybe the epicenter should be associated directly to Generation Z. And it's about talking about politics in a non-political way. That's not to say that we're not political. Obviously, there's a lot of political content on the channel. But in order to talk about politics, there is other avenues of departments. And my obsession with Twitter, I would like to think, is a scholarly effort. If you've been to college and somebody on Twitter was telling me about, for his class, they have like a handful of mainstream sites that they can cite from, and it's the curriculum for the class is very, you know, controlled by academics and so on. So merging, because we are, or some of us, I speculate, born into the TV, Hollywood media era. And after the internet, that expanded, of course. So it's kind of telling, I was re-listening to my last live broadcast a month ago, thereabouts. And I didn't realize that I said that towards the beginning about, this is, you know, I was interested in, like, I don't even know what I was looking at, probably something like Anonymous, but I mean, that's not really relevant anymore. But stuff like that, newgrounds.com, pre-social media internet history. And you guys know about Catherine D. People should be careful. We don't know exactly why she's in this or what her angle is. So, of course, there should be a healthy amount of skepticism. But what she does is not unlike a lot of the stuff that we do. And I even cited her in a speech for campus. And I think if you were ever going to talk about politics in a public setting, if you get called on by the teacher and your disposition is leaning towards this like far right dissident thing, obviously there is a social cost for, you know, outing yourself, and you should not do that. I repeat, should not do that. The reason why I did those speeches with my university was, I think that it's important for young people to see other young people doing that thing, talking about politics in a non-political way. And I don't think the vocabulary has caught up with a lot of people. Not to say that I'm the first or an expert. I would just like to participate, and I want to stay humble and be grateful to you guys who even care to listen about it. And when I see people like Academic Agent do the academic stuff very extensively, and I see dissident right people do all kinds of stuff, you know, it's always bookworm heavy, and it's always academic. And, you know, it's even that kind of sounds like cliche. Oh, so you found a niche and you kind of put yourself on this island where, you know, you're trying to arbitrarily connect things in a philosophical way. But at the end of the day, it's still philosophical, and it's still kind of isolating. Well, I would like the vocabulary to integrate with the pop culture mainstream. You know, we talk, I think, I don't know if it was before or after, probably before, now that I think about it, when Pat Buchanan, whatever that was, retired-ish from his blog, even though I don't think he was doing a lot of those posts. I know that there's some, I think Thomas speculated that somebody else is writing his blogs. But anyway, that announcement that he was not writing anymore, that should be a moment of introspection. What does Pat Buchanan's legacy mean to Zoomers? And if you've seen my Substack, I have an article available there. I should probably put that in chat. Well, that might take too much time. I just want to be respectful of our time here. But you guys can check that out. It's available if you look up my name or try to find, I think my link is somewhere in the community section of the channel for those that are interested. But anyway, I'm talking about that because, we can talk all day long about paleoconservatism and its difference with neoconservatism. And the neoconservatives came from Trotskyites who switched parties, and they were leftists, but they were anti-communist. And we can get into the weeds of that stuff, but I think you'll lose people almost immediately. You turn it into this philosophical talk, you turn it into this academic stuff. And even though one of the speeches that I did talked about, what was it, Guittara and Derrida, if I'm saying that properly. I talked about these French postmodern types. That was not to say that postmodernism is super cool. And actually, postmodernism can be adopted in a right-wing modernist aesthetic. I think there's potential to do something like that. But as Nigel Carlsbad said in that interview, the more I think about it, every time that interview comes to mind, I think about that moment we had where he was trying to tell me I'm basically source cucking when I cite some pop culture figures, postmodern figures, Frenchies, and all these leftists like Foucault, Nietzsche. I mean, we can try to look at that from a right-wing perspective, but that foundation seems to not be in our favor. And so when we're trying to do this like art, what did people call it? The art right or the weird right. Anyways, this little space where we're trying to figure out another niche that's not so academic heavy and not so philosophical, but still receptive to Generation Z. I think the vocabulary, to go back to that, the vocabulary that integrates with pop culture, but is philosophically heavy at its root, that is what I'm trying to do with, I'm not trying to apologize for postmodernism, for post-structuralism, and say that actually these lefties are actually on our side, because then the more I think about it, I feel like I'm, fooling myself and talking myself into believing things that aren't there. There's no there, and I'm trying to project, impose right-wing things into leftist concepts. So I think if anything, maybe the thing to do moving forward is if there's confusion about, like, if people think I'm a postmodernist or I actually want society to read leftists and corrupt it for the right. I think even that is difficult to get people to fully grasp. And so I just want Generation Z identity to be projected in a social way. Because when I think about all these Guittara, Derrida, I mean, that is antisocial too. Trying to explain this roundabout way of talking about it like that, even that is antisocial. And obviously there's, we see where people are going, people that read Nietzsche but don't have antipathy towards Christianity. We can presume what their intent is, but even that is asking too much. We have to consider the audience. We have to consider what are the consequences of even bringing that up, So it's not to throw those speeches by the wayside, but the fact that, those are like 30-ish minute speeches, even that's too much. We got to narrow it down. And I know that there was probably at least one or two people that were confused for some of those presentations. And in my mind, it's like, I thought that was dumbing it down. Well, let's not try to find philosophy. Let's try to understand the time that we're in, 21st century discourse, and see where that can lead to dissident perspectives and not outright say it, or maybe say it in a way that is not academic. So I know that that's a lot, and that's, what would you say? I mean, don't lie about your beliefs, but this like social thing that may not be clear in those speeches, that may not be clear with this channel. I want everything to be put into perspective, or at least most of it, because it goes in all these different tangents and goes in all these, why are you talking about postmodernism and why are you talking about so many lefties that, it just seems counterproductive, and I'm feeding into all this other stuff. But anyways, so that was just some more thinking about what is this channel. I think I started this with the David Lynch anecdote. So I guess we can go back to that. That was a little bit of a longer tangent than I intended, but so I guess like communication through film, maybe that's a little bit better and more modern and more receptive, because as we know, you think about Turning Point USA, you think about some people in the alt-right that are still clinging to that 2016 era, stuff like that is, that time has passed, and we're trying to adopt, what is to bring Hegel into this, what is the human development in the philosophical sense? Where is that supposed to go? Where is the lineage going towards? And we'll get into, one of our favorite people who is a part of that later on. But I want to talk about this David Lynch thing because I'm curious what you guys have to say on it. And I want that to contribute to the chat. I got it. Oh, yo, thank you, Elon Bust. Thank you. You just reminded me of Instagram. If you guys aren't on Instagram, there is a song selected for this specific space. I promoted the channel on there, and that's going to lead into another topic. But before, let me just close this this David Lynch anecdote. So I showed him Blue Velvet, and I was like, hey, was this too much? Because I don't know if I told the story on the show, but I recommended somebody to watch Blue Velvet, and the response was not very positive. And so I understand, that obviously it's not a date movie. It's not so to bring it back to being social, just be normal. We're not autistic. We are normal, not normie. That might have been Semyagog's phrase that he got from somewhere. And so that was kind of like a realization. I've surrounded myself with David Lynch, all of this dissident right politics, and then I go out into the world, and I just recommend that without fully grasping what does the average person think of a movie like that. And so when I showed it to my dad, it was like, okay, what is your impression? Because I don't want to go overboard. I don't want to be too try hard, too cringe. And he said, well, it wasn't overwhelming for him, but it's like that was one of the first types of films of that genre that he experienced. And it's kind of interesting to think of David Lynch as kind of a different type of entertainment, because even just recently, I forget about the fact, I don't even know if I realized until recently, that Lynch is kind of the natural progression after Kubrick. And I guess Kubrick was doing his thing at the same time as David Lynch was getting going. But, to try and relate it to something mainstream, Kubrick, everybody knows who that is. A lot of people do. So it's part of this lineage. It's non-linear. People like non-linear when it's Quentin Tarantino, but when they see artsy, strange, surreal, dreamlike movies, that's a lot to ask. And I understand that. And we'll get into a recent movie, or I guess it's like a year or so now at this point, but we'll get into that later on. But I know it's asking a lot for people to watch stuff like that, and maybe trying to make that palatable to a mainstream audience is almost futile because it's intentionally breaking convention. So maybe instead of trying to fit people into this like exclusive space, it would be easier to relate it to stuff like Kubrick that people like, and then that is an avenue to talk about this very surreal thing. So I'm glad it was positive, and I'm trying to think if there was any what was funny, he mentioned when he thought that Dorothy Valens, Isabella Rossellini, he thought that because she was wearing the wig, that could have been where the ear came from. Because people, I'm sorry to say, I was on Reddit to try and get some answers, and people were talking about the man in the yellow suit. Why was he standing up? And then why was Dennis Hopper wearing a disguise? It doesn't quite make sense. It lends to the fact that, or it lends to the theory that maybe Kyle MacLachlan, Jeffrey Beaumont isn't a reliable narrator, and it's using dream logic. And obviously, Lynch isn't totally transparent with his films, and so there's always kind of that open question. But I think for your average audience, it's overwhelming to not have stuff like that matter, and for it to be like an answered question. It really doesn't matter why Dennis Hopper or the man in the yellow suit is doing that. Like why are they acting weird? What is the purpose? They want they're trying to solve a problem. And what you really have to do is kind of accept that this film doesn't make logical sense. And so you're kind of at that point, it's chaotic. And so if we're already at that level, why don't people just disregard a lot of things in the movie that are somewhat structured? I feel like this audience can understand the nuances of what you're supposed to walk away from and what open questions aren't really important. Like, why does he have to stand up? It just seems very odd. And there's no real reason for Dennis Hopper to disguise himself at that point in the plot. Again, we're getting into the semantics of the film, and you're just supposed to watch it like an experience. And if all of your questions aren't answered, that's okay, because this is fun. And I think framing Dissident Politics in that way, kind of like the Red Scare girls, or gosh, what would be another example? Like, this, I don't know, not Dime Square, but like these very strange subcultures on Twitter. Like Twitter, I want to get into this other thing that's interesting, but here if you can just talk about Twitter as if it's like a town square, then you can really talk about a lot of the schizophrenic stuff that happens, but kind of act as the spectator, act as like the journalist who's, you're the beat reporter at CBGB Studio 54. You're trying to figure out, what is this landscape? And if you're like a Vogue magazine writer, and then you go to a scene and you're trying to figure it out and dissect it, that I think is the way to talk about dissident politics, to understand, the social dynamic. And I don't know if you're really lying when you're coming at it from that angle, but instead what a lot of people in the dissident right do is they take like the yay thing. They take that and they say, well, this is something from a mainstream figure saying things that could now be palatable to the mainstream. So let's just go at it with that. And but what I realized, because I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone earlier, it's like there is no boot camp anymore. Do you remember after in 2018, people in the alt-right kind of had this identity crisis. Where is the energy going to move to? And a lot of people got red-pilled, but didn't know how to internalize it or strategize it. And so it was just a red pill. And I feel like today there's been a lot of introspection rather. And I see that with a lot of different like Twitter spaces, because you guys know me. You guys know I love the Twitter spaces. And I see a conversation developing that could be heard in like a coffee shop, or could be heard on like in a public space. And it's strange, because the characters, as we know, are dissident right, far right. But it sounds so much like something that your parents could talk about, because there's always this like impasse, like the DeSantis versus Trump. There's always this, don't you understand? Like, donors are funding this campaign and these networks. And it's like, wait. Why do we care about every election cycle? Why is dissident politics inherently political? Why does dissident politics not merging with the factions that it came from? Like, people talk about BAP, he's all over the place, but I don't really see that as a political thing. I see that as kind of like a social movement. And I think it was the Prudentialist for last year's event. He described the dissident right, or I guess more specifically like the Old Glory Club, was more of a social movement. And it sounds like a different label, but really, I mean, we don't integrate with the Turning Point USA, YAF, Leadership Institute. That is politics. What the dissident right does is a lot of different stuff. And you can focus on the politics, you can focus on the philosophy, but that's never going to go away. You know, we're engaged, we're keeping up with current events, but you know, that's not an identity. You know, the dissident right is almost like, it's like socialism in the early 20th century. You know, it was left wing, but it got combined with nationalism famously or infamously. And so that word, if you're married to the term because it's a political identity, that's very limited. And that's what the people in Con Inc. are doing. What we're doing is fashion, radio, culture. It's stuff that you notice while watching a show. You know what I'm saying? It's not political in the grand scheme of things, okay? And like I talk, like what people understand about the boot camp, you know, you get the red pill, and then you have to like isolate yourself to like figure out what does this mean for your identity, and then you go in the public space, and not to like red pill people, obviously, and tell everybody, but to understand what it is that you're consuming, and you know what realistically are you thinking. You understand what I'm saying? So again, like it's almost like how to digest the red pill, I guess, is one of those underrated aspects of the dissident right. But I'm sure a lot of you guys are smart enough to know that and have known that for a while. But again, like the Red Scare girls is just so odd. You know, why are they talked about? Why are Twitter spaces talking about people that conventionally are not even right wing? And why is this BAP thing so strange? You know, it's so, you know, what is that? Because it's not all politics. And but anyway, I feel like I already made the point, and I'm trying to like conclude it, but I think I already did. So I think that's that. I think that's, what is this show? Is this a political show? Kind of. You know, what if you were to summarize this show, if you could summarize, you know, Dissident Politics, I hope we're not just telling people to read Pat Buchanan books. I don't think Pat Buchanan would want you to pull out Death of the West on the first date and say, listen, I'm not like all these other conservatives. Let's look into the word conservative. You know, we kind of take that as a household name. And actually, if you read Vilfredo Pareto, you know what I'm talking about, the Italians. So when we get into the elite theory, we can understand that democracy doesn't work. I know democracy, they use that word to mean the left, hegemonic control, but actually, you know, we can use and it's like, okay, no. If that's what the dissident right is, then no, we can't do that. We can't even do that among ourselves. Okay, that's the other thing too. I also remember from last year, I think it was Charlemagne who said when all the dissident right channels, or some of them, got together, they didn't even talk about politics and like the lockdowns, things like that. That didn't even, it was not even necessary, because like what is the utility? You know, what is this movement? And when you think about all the infighting that happens on the dissident right and all the different, you know, I agree, these factions actually can't get along. You know, this Christian pagan thing is a choice. Which one are you going to choose? And instead of trying to remedy that, let's just talk about the fact that people are in the dissident right because it's a political popularity contest. And when people are the competition, they would rather lose without the winners than win with the winners. I mean, I guess that's like a linear point, but that is what's happening, you know. And that's, you know, this channel does not want to integrate with like a certain brand within the dissident right, because that's a political brand. And this identity that we're talking about in this channel, you know, I mean, everybody know, I mean, I guess some people know my stances and so on, past streams, but you know, this thing has a lot more to do with talking to people, being social, than trying to radicalize per se. You know, obviously that's a component, but I don't know. I feel like this is getting rambly. This doesn't sound like a casual space. I feel like I'm telling people things they already know, and this is actually just getting not very structured. So all right, so that's that. That was all just to say that I'm glad I got to show David Lynch to somebody, and they didn't get weirded out. But you know, it's normal for people to get weirded out, and I should understand that things like David Lynch, Dissident Right, you know, these are not things that you can recommend on a whim. I just met somebody in person today, and it's put some things into perspective. So I should get into that now. Actually, that's actually a nice segue before I lose viewers as it approaches midnight Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so first of all, you guys know about the club. Okay, I'm part of this club. And that's where I gave the speeches. That's where, that's the context for all that. I see we have some discourse about who is more attractive. I really appreciate that. But if we could stay on topic for just a moment, if you don't mind, just real quick. But thank you. I appreciate it, though. So I got this email, and there was this local person associated with an organization. And they said, I want to talk to young people about young people things. And, obviously people should be very skeptical. We know about the journalism, watchdog journalists types, SPLC, ADL. This is dangerous. Okay. People should not think that these people are their friends automatically. There's this very liability thing. People should not show their faces. I'm talking about controversial stuff. I just want that to be clear. I know I'm kind of like doing one thing and then saying another. I want it to be clear that obviously you should not like red pill people in your classroom, your professors, and, take what I say on this show and then, try and do that on a local scale. I mean, if anything, I want the educational purpose of this show to just be being more social without losing that dissident perspective and not being loyal to people that are just fighting with other people so that they can get their audience and be the coolest guy on Twitter and on the Dissident Right. So if anything, that's my educational purpose for the channel. But to talk about this thing that happened today. So, obviously it's risky to talk to anybody who's like reaching out to the club and asking, what are you guys all about? But this organization wasn't specifically connected to like a journalist outlet or anything like that. It was like this show. Ironically, this was an organization that had talked to some older people. What do you think about liberals and conservatives? And it's these older boomer types who were like, when I saw you're a Republican, I thought you were white, and actually you're nice to talk to and things like that. And it's just, what you would expect. Oh, can't we all just get along type stuff? So I was like, okay, I'll talk to these people, or I'll talk to this representative just to see what's up. But you should never like incriminate yourself and say too much, because these people can always be saving face, covering their own end, and so it was like this liability that people should probably avoid. But what happened was this person was talking to me, and first of all, she might have been taller than me. I don't know if I probably shouldn't even say that on stream, because that's not a great look. But I don't know. Maybe I didn't get a good look. Okay, because I'm a gentleman. I am not going to gawk, and I couldn't tell if she was wearing heels. She might have been. Can't really tell. But anyway, I was just kind of like taken aback when I walk into the coffee shop. And so, anyways, the interview takes place. And I'm just curious, is this going to be boring? Is this going to be like a cliched thing, rom-com territory? And I don't know. Talking to this person made me realize something that I said in the Oros interview. That's probably about a year old too. Maybe a little bit under, like 11 months. But I got to stop saying stuff like that. That's just like filler jargon. Anyway, I can't get a read on people anymore. I don't know what people are thinking. millennials were supposed to teach us how to use the internet, and instead they just used it for themselves. And now our generation, is Gen Z, doesn't have a lot of guidance in the tech world. And so that's another purpose of this channel, that's what I'm talking about with the vocabulary. We're born into this internet history. Let's understand what it is. Why is Newgrounds important? Why is social media, like, what specifically is wrong with people being on their phones, not just being a boomer and saying you need to get off the phone? Okay, but it's because it's decentralizing culture. It's because people don't have roots. They don't have, to bring back postmodernism into this, people have copies of copies and they don't have an original copy because they have decentralized culture that is not local. All of their culture is, like Chuck Klosterman said in an interview, the internet is like an ocean that is very wide. We can see a lot of stuff internationally, but it's not deep. Okay. That's kind of like a profound statement, right? But, it puts things in a perspective. Why is it hard to talk about tech? Why is it hard to talk about men and women having a hard time dating? And why is it hard talking about convincing people that pornography is disgusting? How do we get past the relativist, nominalist, whatever you want to call it, without using those words, because it's just $5 words. Let's just bring the discourse into, hyper online and local. Okay, let's make that the two parties instead of relativism versus Platonism. But I like that stuff anyway. But I'm just saying, to dumb down the language and to not fall back into that crutch that I do, and that I did in my speeches and I do on the show sometimes. But anyway, so I'm talking to her and I can't tell. I'm referencing Winona Ryder, of course. I asked, and I feel like that's the way to do it, because I'm asking, she's asking me, like, what's your club about, basically. And I said, well, have you seen the movie Heathers? And she lit up. She was like, yes, the movie, yeah. And I was like, if you look at Winona Ryder and Christian Slater as actors, they had that youth attraction, not like physically, I'm talking about, like, that is like the appeal, is that these are actors that have their whole lives ahead of them. But if you look at, like, Christian Slater, when he did that John Travolta movie, Broken Arrow, his career was fizzling out before the decade even ended. The 90s, well, the Heathers was in the late 80s, but you know what I mean. These actors who were in awesome movies, they dissolved within, a couple of years. And you see that with Stephen Dwarf. You see that with, who's Buffalo 66? Frank? I forget that actor. But anyway, all these guys, Christian Slater, they're all part of that, Matt Dillon, all of these arcs were at a peak in the 90s, and then they fizzle out. But then they get reappropriated, in a couple of years later. There's that one show with Christian Slater. I forget what it's called. But anyway, you understand the point. So I mentioned that, not all of that, because that would be too autistic. But I say, okay, you've seen Heathers. So you got these two actors. They were at their peak because they had that youth appeal. You talk like a marketing executive, talk like a PR guy. And I say, that's what was appealing about this. But you'll notice that doesn't last very long, because you're just looking at these actors within the entertainment industry. Well, anyway, our club talks about people like that, people like Lana Del Rey, who captivate an audience, not just for the music, but for the aesthetic. And so trying to be more eclectic with the branding, being hyper aware, meta analysis of the branding, with Lana, she's making music for women. They understand it on this, like, intuitive level. But why does somebody like me get interested in something like that? I was listening to the second album and I was like, this is really girly. I don't think if this was all of her music, I would like it. But then I listened to Ultraviolence, and there is the merge. There is the epic handshake between the sad girls and the whatever type of male audience you want to call that, merging of the audiences. And her style is not totally divorced from the second album, but to understand that that's the dynamic that's happening, those are the people that are strategists that can be effective in entertainment, politics, philosophy, but you don't talk about it like it's a bunch of 50-year-olds. You know, the future Moldovan citizen was talking about how he can't read. He doesn't like reading Kant because it's the principle of the essence of what is, and what is represents to, you know, everybody. You know, this is too much. Let's just talk about it, what it was. Kant was a German Lutheran. He is responding to that era. You know, let's sum up the 19th century in one sentence. Charles Darwin, Nietzsche, and William James are trying to convince everybody that they don't need religion. But you do. You do need religion. So, but because these three thinkers were influential, then we kind of have this trying to usurp religion with ideology in the 20th century. But the history of that is with these, you know, American pragmatists and existentialists. But don't even use that word. Don't say that. Just, these people are trying to usurp religion, and all they got is this philosophical argument that people don't even understand. And I was talking to somebody earlier today who's trying to say that, you know, love is not a mystery because love is just a feeling. And this was like a discussion in class because it's very interactive. And they let us kind of like debate, but in a friendly way. And I was saying, but why? Why are men and women attracted to each other? Because it's biology, because they want to have sex, because they want to preserve their race. Yeah, but why? And he said he was insinuating that is the why. You know, it's Darwinian, you know, that is the purpose for them. Yeah, but you're not talking about anything external. If your answer is they are doing this because that's what life is about, preserving life, that is not an answer. That's nothing. And and anyway, the conversation went in this other direction, but that is the kind of like stubbornness that I think people in the dissident right have, is they just can't communicate. They can't be social like a lot of the people that they're trying to talk to. And those guys don't even have strong philosophy anyway, but they're influential. So I was watching what is it? Plotinus. Keith Woods was talking about Plotinus and how it's not this dichotomy where people are Evolian, you know, trying to revolt against the modern world. And then you have religion over here. You know, the material world is a chain of being that is connected. And when things run awry, that is a disconnection, but it's still real. And if you can just don't tear things apart, then you can still be social, and you can still, I don't know if modernism would be the right word, but if you can just live in the modern world without revolting against it in a way that's like antisocial, you know, that's what I'm trying to say in like simpler terms. I'm kind of failing, but anyway, what was that even from? What I was talking about? Okay. So like with talking to this person that I can't get a read on, I'm saying all of this, but like shortened. And so I guess this is kind of like a struggle session. Maybe you guys can help me out here, but I'm saying, you know, I'm trying to summarize nihilism and modernism and postmodernism and just say, you know, what you need is young people having the torch passed on to them by the previous generation, whether it's tech, whether it's politically. The young people keep the country radical, keep that relevant. And what we have is older people in a lot of regards, you know, in the dissident right. It's the older people fighting with the young dogs. And even though these young people have been around for, you know, for some years, they still consider them sophomores or freshmen. We don't want to be seniors. You know, we don't want to, that's later. That's when we grow up. You know, the young people are supposed to, there was this Peter Brimelow interview or this conference, and Peter Brimelow was, people were celebrating the fact that Andrew Anglin, his name was said in the audience, and he starts laughing and he says, you know, yeah, he's a journalist, but we don't really consider him part of the alt-right. And you see that distinction. You see that distinction between the 4chan users who the alt-right did not want to define their whole legacy, and the alt-right people who wanted it to stay among the intelligentsia. That was going to be the elite of the dissident right. But these two things are the same thing. One is less intellectual, but that has the energy. You understand what I'm saying? So it's funny, like they can't get along, but like they are almost like a visual manifestation of the ideology itself, which is ironic because they can't get along. But that's the thing. You have to be aware that that dynamic exists. And that's why you get all this antisocial stuff in the dissident right, because they're trying to fight for hegemony. And it doesn't really matter if they're aware of it or not. Understand, you know, whoops. For this audience, what is the educational purpose of the show? Avoid all of this antisocial behavior from the dissident right. And all of this infighting, and, you know, it's just, you know, the stance is not getting along with every faction of the dissident right. It's not even a coherent movement. There's, you know, you find the things like, you know, you find Christianity when you get into the dissident right, or you find, I mean, you don't find it there, but, you know, Christianity becomes something that you value after you get involved with the dissident right. Or you understand that you don't just want to be a part of a network, you want to be a part of a community that means something. And so you find friends in the dissident right, and you feel like you have to do a loyalty pledge to everybody that you've met because you owe them debt. And, you know, again, this is so schizophrenic. This is destroying Generation Z. This is destroying the vocabulary that I'm trying to talk about. This is destroying dissident politics by making it political. You're fighting with your friends about politics. Can you imagine something so small? You know, this society, you're trying to fight for society. We got metaphysics. We got, you know, the universe is so big, and you guys care about society. That's not like it's not a promo for nihilism, but, you know, it's just, you guys are fighting for like crumbs, you know, credit and validation from people that you don't even know their, you know, their real names. But anyway, this is too much. This is a little too serious. The pitch is supposed to be make it fun and lighthearted, and I'm telling people seriously, you know, condemning certain parts of the dissident right. So that's a little off character. That's not very Gen Z. I guess it is kind of Gen Z as of right now, but, you know, we're trying to have like a psychological evaluation on that. But anyways, so that's that. I don't remember. Oh, I was talking. Okay, so yeah. So I'm trying to pitch the club, and what I end up pitching is like this channel. I'm talking about the channel and, you know, the club interchangeably, and, you know, really the club is an extension of my interest with Twitter and philosophy and being Gen Z and analyzing what that means. And I'm trying to communicate that with somebody, and I don't know exactly how that comes across. I don't know if people see somebody turning a political thing into a cultural thing, if they see that as a downgrade, because they want it to stay political. And if you want to do the artsy dime square type stuff, maybe just do that by yourself independently, instead of trying to convert the dissident right. And I understand people who have built up their brands, built up their reputations in the political arena. And so it's kind of like, it would be a bait and switch for them to, it's like trying to teach a dog you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's the phrase. So it's, I don't know, kind of this conversation I had with this person, it kind of included most of the things that I'm involved with, whether it's this channel, whether it's Twitter, whether it's what I'm doing during the semester. My classes are giving me more freedom to talk about modernism and politics, but I'm not like explicitly talking about politics. I'm talking about, you know, how media expands into the private realm, and local culture is being replaced by decentralized. People think that they have more options because they have the internet, again, so on and so on. But throughout this conversation, it's like I'm becoming more like self-aware of stuff like this channel, and I'm trying to like work through what exactly is this channel. And it might even be difficult. People might even summarize it and say it's just trying to reappropriate liberal figures with conservative ends. And I think that is too small. There's something else going on, but anyways, that's a little extensive. What else was there anything else that it was a very like strange meeting with this person that people should avoid unless you have like the social skills to not just be political when you're talking to people like that. And but yeah it's like you talk to people and they say like, yeah, that's interesting, and like the organization that like that she has is more of like just talking to people on campus and trying to like, it's kind of like the boomer thing of can't we all just get along. But I don't know, like what is the ends of an organization like that? We're this channel and those speeches are like educational, intellectual. If anything, it's supposed to be like an introspective psychological thing. And so we can say definitively, okay, that is the goal of that and this. But if people have brands that are so broad, then maybe they become susceptible to rebranding, I mean, since it's so up for grabs. Anyway, this is kind of getting a little too much here, but anyways, okay, so that's that. Here, gosh, the chat, there's so much from the chat too. So here. Oh, yo, thank you. Sorry, American Popular. Sorry about that. So I'm just trying to catch everybody up. But thank you. Where is oh, did that link? Excuse me. Anyways, I don't want to neglect the chat. Sorry. I don't want this to be all about myself. I'm just trying to catch up here. Or I'm trying to explain everything. A month doesn't seem that long, but there's been some development. So here, before people leave, let me address the audience. Thank you, Brian E, George Puente, Stiff Upper, Elon Bus. Sorry. Yeah, Brian. Yeah. I don't know I think somebody recommended Twin Peaks. Thank you. And American Populist, thank you for congratulating back. Spring break hasn't happened yet for me, but thank you, Tuesday, FA Tuesday. Good to see just the people in here. Academic Agent just did a stream on the boomer mindset, but he touches on the other generations as well. Opinions on his common criticisms towards our generation. I'm assuming, Charles Otto, you mean you and me are Gen Z. Yeah, I mean, I don't want Zoomers to get into the dissident right and just be political. I want people to develop a vocabulary. I want people to be more culturally self-aware so that when they talk to people, I don't want politics to be something that I don't want people to be known as just a political guy. Like that's your interests. I mean, we should consider that like a private hobby, like the people we make fun of for watching Marvel movies. The politics should be treated like that. It's like, once you're like cool and you've like vetted your friend, then you can talk about politics and get like autistic about it. But if you're going to talk about politics, it should be more so like criticizing how other people are political. And then that makes you look more like you're more culturally based. It's a more social thing, because I think like talking about politics is so uncool. And like this person today I met was telling me that she thinks people are getting away from like identifying with Democrats and Republicans. And I just don't know if that's true. I don't know if we're getting out of that and it's starting or it's ending, if we're in the middle of that process, or if people are just realizing. Because when I see the dissident right, like I am 1776, trying to focus on the art side of it, I see that as more of a, we've tried the political thing. Let's do something that's influential. But anyway, I just feel like I keep saying the same thing. And that's when I was talking to her, I felt like I kept repeating myself, and and you shouldn't say that like you're doing that, because that's another like antisocial thing. That's like a lack of confidence thing. I'm trying to, it's like what Wendell said about, you get into politics for 10 years to summarize it, and it takes you 10 years to talk about your topic in like one sentence. You got to like go through these like trials, and some people are still on the trial, and then they go and make the pitch, and you're supposed to, the pitch is not supposed to come till later. You got to do the figuring out first. Truth mystery, right-wing people who are really in modernity in their thinking or post-modernity are going to find themselves quickly running out of ideas. Even Bowden, as smart as he was an admitted moderate, and at the end of the day, an atheist. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. People have this like parasocial relationship with the philosophers, the way that people talk about the pundits, all these factions on the dissident right. People talk about the cult-like status of, you like this part of the dissident right. But the way people talk about Evelyn, the way people talk about all these Nietzsche, I mean, this stuff is just a means to an end. We're not actually, I don't think we're actually Nietzscheans. We're not actually invested in the philosophy as, it's like, I just reminded me of the other thing I wanted to talk about in the stream. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Maybe that's like the best recent example of like political art that misses who we are, but that's for later. But because there's a line in that movie where the guy goes, don't get caught up in the other dimensions, just focus, appreciate, use the skills, but don't let the skills be ends in themselves. And it's whatever, that's related, but you see a lot of that. Everybody, you guys get it. We don't have to. Yeah, without the spiritual things, it's all kind of LARPy and materialistic in the end. Yeah. Like that guy who said in my class, and I was trying to be friendly. I was trying to be like, not hostile, because it's hard to not do that. I also keep like my voice I keep like talking loud, and maybe that's from public speaking, but I need to also like be self-aware of that and not do that in public. But anyway, yeah, like when he's talking about like, what more do you want effectively? Love is a feeling, love is a buzz. And that's why if you fall in love with a girl and then you break up, that was real because you felt something. Well, if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. You know what I mean? It's like, maybe it wasn't totally real in the sense that I'm describing. If anything, the feeling you get may be like way farther down on the hierarchy than the fact that like love is an action, not the act of love, but like love is, making money for the other person, showing, being in the, living with them in an appropriate way, or, seeing them consistently, like doing the things are valuable. The love is the active participation with the other person, whether that's talking, reaching out. That is love, not this abstract, I feel, these hormones when I was in high school, it's the feeling is gaslighting your own mind. It's your mind is waging a war against itself. It's fighting for hegemony within yourself. And, not to get all like Reddit about it, but, this was a discussion that happened in my class, and, you can just imagine, you gotta be careful and not just be like, don't you understand why you're wrong? You gotta got to reel it in the classroom. But I said, like, it was mean to say, that is nothing. What you're saying is nothing. But you say, like, you can't justify it. This argument is flimsy. You feel good when you eat chocolate. You feel good when the feeling is so materialistic, even though it feels like an oh my goodness, So, but anyways, just maybe that's something people forget that might be valuable. Yo, Chief Trumpster, hey, what's going on, man? I don't know if you're still here, but I saw you were in here. Yeah, Truth Mystery, maybe Lynch and Kubrick are actually further apart than I was saying. Green Glassful, good to see you here. Good to see you here. Twin Peaks used to be my favorite go-to. Gen X types, even though it is great, I don't see anything controversial. Well, it's controversial because you just can't recommend a film that has such like controversial scenes in it. All this, vulgar stuff. It's just even if like you're not a vulgar person, people like see vulgar things and they build this like mental profile of you, and so you just gotta. It's not worth it. Just find something else. There's all kinds of movies. Just find something else, and I should do that with things like Lynch, with things like Dissident Right. Find something that doesn't have so much polarizing things in it. Anyways. Yes, American popular Zoomers need to develop culture, vocabulary, local culture in a social way. Not just dating so that you can do it just because you have the option to, but being social as like joining a club or like meeting friends on campus. Because people like to denigrate the universities because they're corrupted and liberal. But you gotta participate in the social realms. That's the part of modernity. Maybe it's not modernism, but it's like that's the kind of participation I'm talking about, where like you're not just talking about politics on Twitter and you're not just talking with your group chat about like drama. But anyway, see, again, I'm doing the serious thing. That's not what this is supposed to be. But anyway, it's about you make it cultural, you make it pop culture. You talk about Lana Del Rey and you say, what are these people so nostalgic for? They're nostalgic for this like German idealism. They're nostalgic for this romanticism from like the Renaissance era, 21st century Renaissance, 21st century romanticism, that type of pitch. I say cultural scene. Hey, Elon Bus. Hey, thank you. We can talk about this in a Twitter space. Thank you. The rest. Pat Buchanan on the first day. Yeah. Well, just like I, just politics and like in general, like that again. It's like the Peter Thiel dating app, the right stuff. Just I need to find a conservative GF, right? I need a conservative Tinder, but conservative. It's like, no, you like, I remember my friend was telling me, like, if you're able to like talk with like your girlfriend's dad in a casual setting, that's like the litmus test for how social you are, how integrated you are in the modern world without being a servant to it, without giving it this idolatry status. Just I guess the pitch for this stream is like being social and this like political thing being such a waste of time. But anyway. Am I missing anybody's questions here? Oh, here, hold on. I saw there was a chat. I'm sorry. What was it? Marshall Forward. Sorry, it took me long to get to the chat. Yo, Marshall Thank you, Marshall Forward, for $4.99. Thank you, thank you. Shout out to the great American Pat Buchanan, who officially retired from writing books in his column. All of Pat's books are awesome. That's true. That's true. Like, gosh, like I remember Kai Clips talked about, Kai Schwemmer. He talked about how in Death of the West there was a part where he talked about how the invention of the dishwasher changed the dynamic for the family, because you have like technology invading the private space. And now like the 50s housewife thing is like, it's not just like a personality type. It's almost like part of the culture. You know, we have people making an invention for the housewife. You know, it's like, this is something that's not just like a stereotype. It's a real phenomenon. And so where was I going with that? So like talking about Death of the West, but like bringing up that example, like that example is not totally political, you know, like these things that, you know, the book is so long. There's a bunch of different examples on NATO, on culture war, you know, stick to the culture war, stick to like, you know, the Larry Flint and the Hustler magazine controversy. You know, the Supreme Court was interested in, you know, talking about pornography in a non-vulgar way. You know, what are the societal implications of this verdict? You know, that's, I mean, you shouldn't talk about like anything porn related in a conversation, but like something like that, that's not totally political. That's a case that could show up in like a Rolling Stone magazine. You know, you're talking about politics, but not directly. You know, I feel like that's subtle, that's social. But anyway, and it's like whenever people try to be like social and treat the dissident right as like part of their audience, people do like the manosphere stuff. They do the pickup artist thing. They, you know, people need to understand how to be Machiavellian in a men and women dynamic. And it's like, well, you know, this isn't like a dating show. This isn't like I'm trying to teach people how to, you know, how to like riz, you know, some woman. You know, it's this different, that's a different category, you know. But you know, that gets integrated into the dissident right, that gets integrated into the BAP space. And I just feel like that has nothing to do with me or this channel. You know, that has nothing to do with Gen Z. They're trying to pitch to Gen Z their platform. They're trying to pitch, you know, you should adopt the Bronze Age mindset, because this is a concept that makes you social. It accommodates all the people, all the whys and the hows that you're looking for. But it's not. That's not the society that I'm trying to think about. I'm trying to do this pop culture thing, almost for like metaphysical ends. You know what I mean? For this like psychological thing of, you know, rejecting postmodernism, rejecting all types of feminism, you know, but not revolting against the modern world, you know, to the detriment of religion. You know, it's, you know, like some of you guys were saying in chat, like, you know, religion is, you know, kind of the ends. And so, you know, how do we do that? You know, exactly. So anyways, I feel like I just keep rambling. I feel like but anyways, I just want to be, just want to make sure this channel is not completely schizophrenic. Yo, the Twitter spaces for that, Elon? Yeah, maybe you and I, maybe you, me, and Phil's Goodman, we can, let's see about that. My goodness. Hey, thank you, guys. Thank you, Green Glassful and George Puente, Marshall Forward, Elon Bus, True Mystery. Hey, thank you, guys. Thank you guys are, I guess it's not that late relative to, I guess it is late for like normal people, but yeah, anyways, these are just some thoughts I've been having since the last stream, and, you know, not to be too dramatic about it. You know, the whole point is to kind of downplay how important this, you know, this ethos I'm trying to talk about is with this show. I mean, we are talking about serious philosophical things, But if we just talk about it like that directly, then we kind of I don't know, we neglect a bigger part of it. So anyways, yo, bass guitarist, I just saw your comment. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Green Glass. Well, thank you for the compliment. Anyways, only 1 a.m. Hey, there you go. I kind of wanted to talk about this No Jumper episode. Did you guys see this? What did you guys think about that? I know we've talked about Richard on the show before, and some people might be ambivalent as to why I tune into his spaces. What is the point? And I guess it's kind of part of that like branching out of who people in the dissident right write off and ignore, because they just look at the fact that he's a Biden voter and he's pro-vaccine and all this stuff. It is very cringe. It's not to defend every aspect, but because he has so much experience with the right, the way that he talks about conservatism as lame and boring, that's a lot of that is, part of my pitch. That's he's, critiquing the right in a way that if we tried to do it, we would just sound like any other dissident right channel on YouTube. But, the way he talks about, like, you can't let your hobbies, define your identity. There was a lot of moments in there, obviously he's cringe, but there's a lot of stuff in there that people could use. And, okay, yeah, maybe I watched the, okay, did other people respond to it? Yeah, that's not, it's also not to defend No Jumper, because, yeah, when I see like Adam 22, that's a little, that's not exactly the archetype I look up to. And I'm sure you guys saw that Nick went on, what was that? Pearly Things. And that panel with all the women, it's like, he was talking about how he forgets how without things like AF or Keith Woods or other dissident right factions, when you look at like what's happening for like average people that like don't have any self-awareness or dissident imagination, it's all just material, modern, and even like people on that panel were very receptive, because I feel like Nick talks to people he does put on the whole, like, he's playing up the misogynist thing, but really when he's talking to them, it's very social, it's very amicable, and he's saying things that are like, I wouldn't even do the smart aleck thing of like, I'm saying the thing I'm not allowed to say. Like, I think only people like him can get away with that. We shouldn't like mimic like that specific part of the dialogue. But the way he's like so social about talking about the dynamic of men and women, that's something that I wouldn't trust a lot of, I wouldn't trust like random people on Twitter to pull off, have that same kind of charisma, have that same delivery and vocabulary that he talked with, just those normie women on the Just Pearly podcast. And, even someone like Adam 22, like he's self-aware enough to invite people like Richard onto No Jumper, but I mean, his whole scene is not really anything we can infiltrate. There's nothing, like, even the pickup artist thing, I don't think, I actually think the pickup artist thing is closer to Adam 22. And, I know people try to integrate the manosphere into the dissident right. I don't see that as very productive. But, it's about separating these things. The dissident right doesn't have to be united. You just have to find the right faction, that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So, no, I think it's interesting seeing those types, communicate, because it can make some of us pretty social. Did Scott Adams backpedal? I know he like made it about, he he clarified that he supports affirmative action and that you're not supposed to avoid every person in a bad zip code. But I don't know, was it backpedaling, or was that topic still, was he still taking the stance that people saw in the video? I'm not really sure. Thank you, Orion. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Elon bust. I forgot all about that. Or not all about it, but yeah, that, to me, like, that interview summed up probably everything that this channel has stood for. You know, that kind of collaboration, everything they talked about. You know, they talked about Nick's arc and the strategy. You know, some of the misunderstandings, that's valuable because a lot of the dissident right people don't get Nick, or don't want to get Nick. But towards the end, when they were talking about like big culture, broader society, you know, how to survive in modernity and how to reconcile all these, you know, these dynamics. I like, here, let me try and find the video. There was because the timestamps in the description. Let me see what yeah, if you haven't seen that video, people should check out. That's because okay, not to be, I'm not trying to be rude. You guys know I love Keith Woods. I love him, but it took me a while to get on board, because a friend of mine who was into philosophy, he was telling me, if you find the right topic that he's talking about in a video, you can get into the content. But I, you know, the Nick would critique his, you know, the thick accent, the Irish delivery, you know, it's so academic. It's almost like the opposite of this show. It's almost like irreconcilable, his show and mine. But if you watch that interview, especially the beginning, I feel like, and again, I'm not trying to like be like, I'm not trying to look down, because obviously he's much more successful and popular, but I feel like Keith's arc has been like very mature. Not that, you know, he needs somebody to tell him that, but I find it really inspiring, because him and Nick are both Gen Z, you know, they're representatives. And, you know, there was an era where Keith was very bookwormish, and he was almost closer to academic agent. And obviously that didn't, you know, that withered away, but he was a lot closer to academic agent and that kind of style and brand. But I see like, even though he still talks about like Platonism and, you know, Irish politics and things like that, these are things that are not really mainstream and like things you bring up on a first date. But I feel like his interest and his sensibility is more casual. He's gotten like closer to Nick, not just in like the literal sense, but he's gotten delivery wise, personality wise, closer to Nick, and he's combining it with that philosophical background. That is this show. That is this brand. And I don't know if that's like obvious, you know, you guys have probably known that for a while, but, and that might not be like a very profound thing, but, you know, do you see how, like, you know, studying some of these YouTubers, you learn something about sociology. You see when people kind of go off on a bad path, like, you know, like Richard, he, in a way, it's like he just went back to what he did before the 2016 election. He just went back to being a Talkie magazine editor type, or the American conservative editor type, you know, or Radix. You know, he just went back to his background. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a completely schizophrenic identity change. You know, and so that's where the dissident right makes sense. If you're trying to look at it as one big thing, you're kind of missing it. And, you know, as far as like, why do I do this channel? What kind of like collaborations would I like to see? What do I see as positive developments? It's things like that Keith Woods interview with Nick, you know, and it wasn't all political, you know, it was very amicable. So let me, sorry, I didn't get the chapters here. So, okay, so he talks about alt tech sucks. Or he says alt tech sucks, and it needs to be a social network. And then obviously the Nick's return to Twitter was not permanent, but that's kind of like, I returned to Twitter and I was trying to figure out all of this like non-political stuff that involves, tech, that involves social media and modernity. So it's like if you just describe things like a jazz cabaret in the 1930s, 1920s, Weimar Germany, it's like you don't even have to say the red pill. If you just talk about the climate that people lived in, I mean, it's like a logical person will come to the conclusion that you did when you got red pilled. You don't have to sell the red pill. The red pill is already in the public domain. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, I don't make like Pat Buchanan book reviews, or, Keith had the book club, which I thought was almost like a step backwards. It's like, no, I want you to be like a pop culture critic. I want you to do more reviews of No Country for Old Men and, stuff like that. He did, what was another, he did another thing out of left field, I thought, or just like unconventional. What was it? Maybe not. Like the cultural Cold War, the CIA and the Congress for Cultural Freedom. I mean, that is like, that video is almost like this channel too. Talking about, you're just talking about networks, right? I mean, you're just talking about networks and all of these people that emerged in the 60s culture, hippie types. But I mean, you can see on display, the ideology. You can see, you don't have to talk about the ideology. The ideology is exposing itself, sometimes literally. So anyways, just a roundabout way of putting closure on that. Yeah, Charles Otto. Okay, Charles, you're still here. Oh, here, you were asking for the Twitter? Sorry. I'm all over. What did Robert De Niro said in Casino? I'm telling you, it's all over. That should be like, that should be a clip. I'm telling you, it's like when he's in the bathrobe talking to Pesci, Nikki. This is the Twitter, for those that don't know. If you want to tune in to the non-YouTube content, I'll probably be in a Twitter space. I'm very open in the Twitter spaces, and we can talk about all kinds of stuff very intimately. But Charles, yeah, I know. What? All the animosity, all the block everybody associate. I just come on. That's to me, that's so boomer. That is boomer truth. So just, that's antisocial. That's somebody who can't get along with people, and not in the way that I was describing, where, people who focus on paganism to this obsessive degree. It's like we don't really need people like that as a spokesman for the dissident right. Like, I understand like that you can call that like a separate scene, and you can just like not associate, but like telling people and talking about it seemingly every day, it's just, talking about ops, talking about Fed ops. It's like, you don't have to be warned about Fed ops because, that talk has already been pitched. You guys know to be careful, to don't just trust everybody. You guys get it. You don't need to hear from some. But anyways, George Puente, going to bed. Thank you, man. Thank you. Good night. I'm assuming you're going to bed. Good night, man. Thank you, George Puente. Good to see you here, man. Good to see you. And so yeah, I know. It's just cringe. It's cringe. How many times do you have to learn this lesson? Here, I want to see what you guys are up to. Does Thomas still come on AAs? The last one was probably the Henry Ford stream. Yeah, I don't know. I think AA does his own thing, and you know, we need a Thomas 777 movie recommendation stream, Ace. I'm trying to think. Like Phantom of the Opera. I was talking to Thomas about horror, and oh, that was the other thing. That was the other thing. I'm trying to trying to normalize that stuff for me, but yeah, he Phantom of the Opera and Creature from the Black Lagoon. Those are like his two favorite like classic era horror movies, and so that was cool to hear. If you guys, he also said, gosh, what was it? Was it in the 80s? Was there one in the 80s? I think. Oh, is that the Brian De Palma one? 1989. He said, yeah, he likes the Universal one and the 1989. That is the Brian De Palma one, isn't it? Oh my goodness. Oh, whoops, sorry. Oh my goodness. Sorry. Oh, that's oh, is no. What's is there 1989? Oh no. So I don't know. I don't know what but that was his he was talking about that. Have you seen Infinity Pool yet, Ace? No, I haven't. I haven't. What's tell me about that in the Telegram to or I guess in this chat right now. I'd be curious to know. Good checking in, Ace, chugging cold. Oh, okay, Green Glass. Well, hope you get better, man. Stick around for a bit. Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, man. Well, I'm glad you tuned in. Take care. The guy who made here, let me yeah, Truth Mystery. Thank you. That's on AF. That's like the best take. Did I miss anybody's questions? I don't want to neglect. Also, the other thing I wanted to say. Well, okay, I want to preface this. I want to be clear. I want to be clear with what I'm saying. I am trying to not be confusing. You guys know, I am pro-life. I am pro-life, anti-porn, anti-feminist. That all being said, if we can just look at Camille Paglia from the art when she talks about art, I think that might be the best way of like explaining art to other people. Like, do not do not believe in the politics of Camille Paglia. I want to stress that. I am not endorsing all of this disgusting hedonistic stuff that she talks about. But from the art side, I don't know how many of you guys are older than me, but I don't know if you guys see like the discourse that happens around Paglia. I was curious if you guys had any like pointers, if you had any like, because like I don't want to like defend her, because then people assume that you're like this 90s feminist type. But I'm just curious, like dialogue wise, you know, having reverence for religion and having reverence for art, you know, what because I know like the Bat people are at least vaguely interested in her, and I don't know how often he talks about it, but you know, like I talked about Jonathan Bowden's Pulp Fascism. She's like, you know, the female version of that, but she has her own baggage. She has her own. So like, if we could have a pro-life Polya, if we could have a, you know, if instead of LARPing as, you know, everything she loves leads to everything she hates, you know, that progressive critique. But I was just curious if anybody in here got into her writing or her interviews, and if they took anything away from it. Oh, Truth Mystery, really? At your art school? But something came up and she couldn't. What year was that? She is a degenerate. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, she, like that E. Michael Jones C-SPAN, you know, degenerate or what is it? Degenerate moderns. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the tragedy is, you know, she is philosophically trained, but then she uses it to defend like drag queens and you know, and androgyny type stuff. And so it's kind of like the opposite of us. It's the opposite of us. You know, I don't want this, I don't want people to interpret this show as like that. You know, it's like you can take stuff, you can just take the art stuff, you know, that's really, you know, because like in her interview, she will preface the stuff that she supports. She will preface all of the like liberal causes that she, that, you know, that she still supports. And it's like, it's very off-putting. It's not like, but as far as like describing art, and I mean, I guess, you know, she's also very like angry when she's like giving interviews, so it's not even social. But it's weird. It's like she's like well read, and so that's like a valuable thing. But I wanted to talk about that with you guys because I don't think I'm gonna like, I don't think I'll openly support, you know, stuff just for the fact that all of those views are so, you know, I feel like people would get into her and then adopt all the worst aspects of her. So I don't even want to like support it here on this stream. But you know, what I'm talking about with pulp fascism, Bowden-esque art critiques from the right, I think that's something that should be taken from Polya, but that's it. That's it. No more. No more. It's just yeah, I think you guys get it. Praise. Oh, really? Did she do that? Okay, see, that's why I wanted something like that to I wanted to learn about, you know, something that she mentioned. So, okay, so she praised Foucault, but I thought she didn't like the postmodernists. She didn't like the French. We don't need, see, that's what's kind of cool. She said, that's where I got that from. She says, we don't need philosophers to explain to us the culture that we live in. We don't like these types because they look down at TV and media culture. But she defended Foucault. I don't understand. Elon Musk. Oh gosh, did she? Okay. So yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like I don't name that person in public because people don't even know what to do with. They don't know which parts of her they like. So just don't even say it. You know what I mean? Don't even say it. It's too risky of a citation. Don't even, you know what I mean? Just find something else. I mean, it's probably better to say Bowden. She said the only thing. Oh my goodness, are you serious? Oh my, did she actually? Man, it's over, man. It's over. Yikes. Yikes. Man. Okay. Really? Oh, Green Glassful. That's interesting. You had to taught by Judith Butler. Did you wait a second? Taught by Judith Butler, like in person, or was the curriculum Butler inspired? Did you like actually see her? Yeah, that's the thing. It's like when you cite somebody, people like grasp onto the toxic stuff, you know. So you just have to like not even mention her and just like inherit the good, which is very small. It's just like the art critique. It's just that. So Green Glassful, what percentage of heavy metal rockers have enjoyed? Wait, what? Wait, what? Sorry, bad joke. Wait, what? What? You're telling me for the first time. That was probably in relation to something I said earlier, but that was way out of left field when I was reading it. Does Thomas get banned even more often than most people in the Dissident Riot because he tends to be quite difficult to find online? I know he's on Twitter and appears on here. Yeah, he's I don't know exactly what gets him banned. Oh gosh, there was another thing. Oh my goodness. Here, let me send you the Thomas link. Where is the Thomas? Oh, sorry. Is this it? Okay, sorry for the delay. There you go. Oh man. There's Thomas's Oh, Marshall Forward. Hey, good night to you, man. Thank you. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Love you, Marshall Forward. So many of Thomas's videos got script. Is there backups? Is there backups for those videos, Green Glassful? Are those on BitChute or anywhere else? At UC Berkeley, yes, she taught in the rhetoric department, which was continental wing of philosophy there. Oh, really? So you got to see, gosh, that's not really an honor, but that's very interesting. Here there was something up. Oh, so by the way, you guys might like this. Check this out. So, in the last space, or excuse me, in the last stream, I talked about I was in a Twitter space, and there was a character involved who may have been involved with me getting suspended from Twitter. Well, I was meeting this person around that same time. It was this woman who seems to be very receptive to my pop culture like angle, even though we're like in a political space, we always seem to be talking about like music and movies and things like that. Well, she got suspended from Twitter, and this was like my only contact with her was through Twitter. And so this was overwhelming. The Twitter spaces, I think, have taken a big hit, and it's been a lack of like inspiration since she got suspended. So, I did this tweet, and I think you guys will like this. Let me share my screen. There we go. Check this out. So I posted this tweet, and maybe this was dramatic to describe it in this way, but anyway, she would use Jane Russell as her profile picture. So mentally, that's how I identified her. And so this was basically like my like eulogy tweet for her account. And I should also have some background here. So her account, I don't know how many iterations there were, but she had Peter Hitchens' name in the account. And the real Peter Hitchens is on Twitter, and he said, I'd like you to take my name out because people are going to think that you are me. Like she's like an impersonator, and she basically like blew him off and said like it's not a big deal. Or I think she did change her name, and he said like that wasn't good enough or whatever. I don't remember how it developed, but she changed it to like Peter Hitchens Reader, and he said like you still should not be using my name. And so it was something along those lines. I don't have the timeline perfect, but anyways, so her account got suspended, and because her account kind of had this reputation of she seemed to make Peter Hitchens upset. So after I posted, like a couple minutes after I posted this, he quote tweeted me, the Peter Hitchens, or as far as I know, this is the real Peter Hitchens. It's a Peter Hitchens account. And he says, gosh, huzzah, Twitter support. Finally noticed and acted on this blatant piece of impersonation and name stealing. And then he wants the suspension to be permanent. And it's like, what in the world? First of all, I did this at like 2 a.m. When did I do this? It was almost 3 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And thanks to him. And so what was it? It was like 2:52 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. He did it at 3:26 a.m. my time. And it's like, what in the world? Like, I don't know what time it is in the UK, but that was just so, bizarre, really bizarre that happened. And I know Academic Agent has been critiquing Peter Hitchens, but I, from my perspective, it was just, where did that come from? Also, I saw this concert. That was another thing that happened while I wasn't on YouTube, or streaming rather. And this was pretty interesting. There was at least one girl, or it looked like a girl, dressed up in Ronald McDonald makeup and an outfit. And so yeah, I guess I went to a concert. That seems to be pretty rare for me compared to before the lockdowns. So that happened. This was kind of like a goth prom concert, if you remember me talking about the goth prom. I had some stuff to eat afterwards. I don't remember if I had that cheeseburger, now that I think about it. I'm not sure. Anyways. All right. Oh, I guess one of the last things I can talk about is this Everything Everywhere All at Once seems to be fighting for hegemony at the Academy Awards. Babylon is going to get snubbed. Damien Chazelle is going to get snubbed from what it looks like. And what's her name? Like Janet Lee, Janet, or I think that's somebody else. Janet something, I think, is one of the like presidents, or the president probably, of the Academy Awards. She like Janet Yang, excuse me. She like said that the protagonist for Everything Everywhere is amazing, and so it kind of like it implies that they're gonna win. And so now I want to give a shout out to Obese Goth. In fact, let me put his Twitter in here because he's like my favorite account on Twitter right now. Let me share. Excuse me. This is one of my favorite people on Twitter. He talks about the, film stuff extensively. Let me put that in chat just in case. But yeah, it seems like he's very, very pessimistic about Everything Everywhere, kind of dominating the press. And he made the argument, I don't think I even really noticed this before him, but whereas before you had Moonlight and Get Out, all this like black cinema, now it seems like Asian is the new cool thing. It seems like, and I don't know what the demographics of the Academy Award intelligentsia are, but I think it's majority non-white, and you can probably see that within the nominations. But anyways, yeah, the kind of like change between like black and Asian cinema, that's not, I don't know, I don't really see people talk about that. And then this might possibly be Steven Spielberg responding to all the yay. That's the thing. Obese Goth kind of finds these interviews that I wouldn't normally see. And I think he had his film roster, or his Oscar ballot rather. So anyways, I know we did some Elvis Shilling and some Babylon. Yeah, Babylon was another. But anyways, yeah, just again, some more like dissident content that's not explicitly political, also known as my brand and what I'm trying to focus on. Yo, shout out to May, shout out to Reactionary May. Very very positive in one of the chats. Thank you. I just saw that. But yeah. So is that everything? I wanted to see what you guys thought about Everything Everywhere, because honestly, obviously the message is very, well, there's some stuff in there that's very Reddit and very nihilistic, but I guess if the protagonist is trying to like take her daughter out, like get her away from nihilism, and I guess have this more American pragmatist's perspective, this Jamesian philosophy of, but even that is still very 19th century. It's very existentialist. So I don't know. At first I was like, maybe they're trying to critique nihilism, but even within that, it is still nihilistic. So I was going to try to defend certain parts of the movie, but the more I think about it, a lot of it is very cringe. I don't really like action. I don't really like action movies, like style wise. I kind of like where Everything Everywhere is going, and people should be inspired by it, but it shouldn't. I feel like people, again, like Polya, people are just going to adopt the worst aspects of her. So I almost don't even want to support it at all. I don't want to name drop it at all, because look what happens. People just can't remove the bad from, or they can't remove the bad from the good. Who even watches the Academy Awards? Well, I'll probably be checking it out just because I'm trying to be like a film critic type. But yeah, I understand. Yeah, it seems like it's no longer like the Super Bowl or anything like that. It's very comes and goes. Yo, TB88, we might just be so back. I'm thinking. I agree. I agree with that. Going to turn into a juggalo? I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, thank you, Truth Mister. Yeah, Peter Hitchens. The movie's mid, probably. Is it the next La La Land that gets memory hole? Yeah, that's strange. It's strange. You would think La La Land should be like the romantic, inspirational movie for film critics, but yeah, that's kind of telling if people are just gonna forget about it like that. No skin in the game to watch. Yeah, maybe that's it. What genre of film do you like most, Ace? Well, it's funny. I kind of I went from the pretty obnoxious the more I think about it. Like I used to like the satire, social commentary heavy genre like Vice and the big what is it? The other Adam McKay one about the housing crisis. The Big Short? Yeah, The Big Short, I think it's called. You know, that's cool, but I feel like it's limited, so I can't really call that, like American Psycho is social commentary. Nightcrawler is social commentary, but I'm starting to not really like Nightcrawler. It's probably overhyped just because it's a little too autistic. It's kind of leaning into the literally me thing a little too hard, and whether that's the people making it or the right-wing reaction to it, it's a little too on the nose, and it's probably not a movie I would watch if it was on TV, like jump in and watch. But yeah, I used to like the social commentaries like the 90s To Die For and Natural Born Killers. Well, I don't know. The more I think about it, it's almost like Fight Club. Like Fight Club is cool when you're in high school, but it's not really that deep or profound the more you think about it. So I think instead of like trying to marry yourself to like the Taxi Driver genre, I think what I like now is more romantic, more like Babylon. Babylon is, it's a story that's telling the meta story of like Hollywood and filmmaking itself. And it's lighthearted. You got your funny moments, but you also got your like wisdom, like Brad Pitt's character he can't find an optimistic way of looking at his career, and so he just goes down this bad path. But you don't have to do that. There is an optimistic path for the Brad Pitt character, and it's tragic that he chose this unnecessary diversion. So that's like a really serious part. And then you have your like Lynchian scene with the Tobey Maguire character. So like a movie like Babylon, where it goes in all these different moods, but ultimately it's romantic. It's a romantic, positive, like Swing Kids. Swing Kids is like a World War II movie about music. Well, I don't know. That's kind of also like a very tragic. That's kind of a bad example, actually. What would be another? Like La La Land is a little too romantic, a little too cute. I don't like how Everything Everywhere has that Marvel humor. It's almost like a Marvel movie disguised as a philosophy movie, and I don't really like that. You should just be clever with the philosophy rather than make it so sensational, because that's not really subtle if you're kind of doing that. But I don't know. I don't know what you would call that genre of like, I guess like a 21st century romanticism, but then I think that gets you down this rabbit hole of probably like French style movies or like rom-com territory. I don't know. I just like do you remember Vast of Night? Is that what it was called? Vast of Night? Red Letter Media reviewed that. That was like a straight premise in the 50s you kind of forget it's in the 50s, like American Graffiti. How about that? There you go. American Graffiti and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's what I like. That's my niche. Those are movies I can go into. And, but yeah. So those are some examples. Yeah. Because I don't really watch. I feel like I tried to convince myself I like psychological thrillers, but it seems like I don't actively look out those movies. So, but yo, Brandon in chat, let's go. Yo, hey, Anglin Stewart, I know who that is. Good to see you here, man. Did you watch? You know what, man? I this is me, exposing my lack of culture here. But no, I didn't see that, even though I'm fascinated by Paul Thomas Anderson. I forgot to follow up on that. No, I didn't see that. I also didn't see Everybody Wants Some. I probably should have checked that out by now, but I don't know. You got to be careful. Like Dazed and Confused, you got to be careful. It's edging too much into the nostalgic throwback. It's like I'm there. I'm watching it. It's like I'm a spectator. Like you don't just want to have do you remember It Follows? It Follows had those scenes, and Jay from Red Letter Media pointed out how you'll just have a scene where like they're talking and one girl's like putting pieces of grass on her leg just because she's bored. Like that's like a natural, spontaneous scene from a movie, but in Dazed and Confused, you'll literally have like a bunch of high schoolers driving around and there's not really a plot. I know like American Graffiti and Once Upon a Time is like that too, but that it is part of the story. It's not just a bunch of people doing nothing or they're going to a party or, something random. You don't want to emphasize the randomness. You just want the randomness to, it's like that part in Escape from New York where Kurt Russell, like something in the plot changes and then he just pulls up the chair and he just sits down and he does his hair up and he seemingly doesn't know what to do. Like the plot of the movie has changed. And so you just get this little moment where, what's he going to do in New York? The buildings are, there's just a chair here. It's like part of, like wreckage or whatever, or it's been like moved to that spot rather. And, there's not much happening, but it's like a mood. It's a mood in one scene. Like Brandon, he'll post a scene from The Godfather where Michael is like sitting at the dinner table, and I think he either has a drink, I think he drinks, and then he just kind of sits there. Like there was a conversation happening right before that scene, but the scene just keeps going on, and so that's what I like. That's the cool stuff about Taxi Driver, not the schizophrenic identity. That's kind of like the meme, but I like the moody, stopping the story for a little bit, not for the whole movie, but just a little bit. And I think it takes, a subtle person to do that. And Dazed and Confused is a little too aware of the fact that it is nostalgic. So, but yeah, that's the thing. I like, I guess I like casual films. Maybe that's the genre. I had to look up Tom Waits. Oh, it's a rom-com. Oh, okay. What movie is this? You just don't get it. He was Tyler Durden. Yeah, exactly. People, that's how people are. That's how, like, again, it's just like the Seinfeld stuff. It's just like the sitcom humor. The people will repeat lines. You know that they're funny because they're emphasizing the line. Have you watched much of the film nerd stuff? What would that? Oh, Oh, I think Tartovsky. I think Hanglin may have recommended that. Maybe not. I think somebody recommended that to me. Yeah, Truth Mystery. Yeah, maybe I'm being too harsh on Nightcrawler. I don't know. It's just been in my head. Oh, okay. It's the Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Yeah, I'll probably check that out. Is it like intentionally diversity casted? I don't know, I remember there were a lot of people who I don't know. I don't really remember actually. I'm like thinking of one person and saying I was about to say like that's enough, but probably not. But yeah, man. Well, hey, thank you, guys. 2 hours, man. Well, yeah. Well, thank you guys. If you have any other questions, this is I know we've been kind of casual for a while here, but yeah, just been thinking. Just been thinking. What have I been doing? I've been thinking. Been thinking about some. But yeah, good to see you guys, man. Because it does feel like a really long time. It feels like January is when I last. Probably was January. Can I get a date on that? Can I get a date? Oh, sorry. That was January 17th. Oh, wow. Okay. So, sorry. I guess that was quite a bit. That wasn't February. TB88, when is next stream? Well, you guys should tune in to Thomas TV. I think you're going to be seeing some collaborations there that you can look forward to. We'll see what happens in the near future. I'm not sure. Not sure what the exact schedule is, so that's what people can look forward to. But yes, that's and then also on Twitter. You guys should check my Twitter if you want to know updates because I'm more active on there than I am with the YouTube. So thank you guys. Thank you TB88 and Brian. Wow, Brian E got all the way here to the 2 hour point. Thank you, man. And Truth Mystery, hey, good to see you, man. Good to see all you guys in here. I feel like with you guys, I don't have to have a set script for like a stream because, you know, there's almost like an educational part of this channel where I'm like, it's like I'm talking to different parts of the dissident right, and some people are at different levels of the cycle. So, you know, but like people who get to the 2 hour mark of the stream, these are the cool people that we can talk movies with, and we don't have to be like, hey, isn't this an annoying part of the dissident right? You know, and so, well, we can talk about that, but it's not like, don't you understand that postmodernism is not the correct foundation for you know, we're not adopting that for left-wing ends. We're doing it because it's an avenue that's not directly political. It's like, yeah, let's do the pitch at the 2 hour point of the stream. With people in here, we can be like, you know, who are some people that are kind of annoying on the dissident right on Twitter? You know, this is the part of the stream where we can be more honest. So that's the thing. It's like there's different phases of the stream. You know what I mean? Oh, okay. Hanglin. Okay, I see I didn't read that right. I read that a little differently. Oh, Hanglin. That hits a little different because of I can just imagine you saying that. That's pretty funny. Let's define our terms. Here's the other thing. Again, this is just my opinion. I don't have much influence, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Like, I like that Sargon is doing like the Lotus Eater type content where it's closer to reactionary philosophy and it's not just debate me bro stuff, and it's a little more self-aware. But I still don't really like the Sargon arc. I don't like talking about him and acting like this is some big victory. Like what Joel Davis said about Sargon has been influenced by the far right. That is valuable. That is like the Charlie Kirk and the Groyper dynamic. That is something that we can talk about. And it's like, it's almost like empirical evidence. But this thing where we're like, people are like bandwagoning Sargon, like that's, like, I wouldn't go that far. I would say like, hey, this is a cool development, but like, people are like, they're like, I have to watch him talk to Aaron McIntyre about Curtis Yarvin. I have to. Did you see that stream where he talked about the total state, where he talked about the technological age? I just can't. That content doesn't. It doesn't. It's like I'm not part of that trip anymore. You know what I mean? Like I would tune into Aaron McIntyre. I would try to get caught up with the Dark Enlightenment type stuff. And it's like I did the phase. I got through the boot camp and I graduated. You know, not that like I'm some like super mature guy, but like it's like I've already seen that type of content. I see the educational aspect, the Carl Schmitt quotes. It's like I saw it. Okay, I saw it. And I'm not even one of those guys who's like Aaron McIntyre says the same thing on Twitter. Like I don't even mind. That's not even I don't think that's a big deal. I think people should be repetitive like that, just to make the message clear. But I mean, the people who are like clustering towards the academic content, it's like, we been new, we got it. But I don't know, man. Again, it's like, it's also because I'm not like a scholar type. I just like to try to place the lineage that connects to the scholarly stuff. But, again, I'm doing the thing again. I'm pitching at the 2 hour, 7 minute ish mark. It's just, I gotta stop. This professor delivery. But anyways. Yeah, exactly, Truth Mystery. Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't watch that. I don't watch the show. I don't, you know what I mean? Like I'm not watching the Lotus Eaters channel. I don't know. Not to be like, not to squander like a compliment, but like I don't know. It's just I don't see anybody doing anything. I don't see organization. I don't see like somebody said earlier, like infiltrating local culture. I don't see the right-wing Andy Warhol. I don't see like what's his name? Greg Conti. He got like axed from his job, and it's like, people like that need to not, well, I don't know. That's kind of like, I'm talking about like the 2017 era. That's actually, that example I probably can't use. So never mind. But like, I don't know, like academic agents should just like, well, I don't know, that's also like a different, arc. There's just not a lot. Again, like I look at all these people and I don't really see like representatives, I don't really see, it's just a different thing, it's like if you met all these people, are you going to be like, yo, this concept, this, but anyways, I'm just like, at this point, I'm just rambling. I wouldn't counter signal them. Yeah, exactly. But it's funny because they counter signal everybody else. So how about that? You know what I mean? Hey, don't punch right, guy who punches right. Hey, man. You know what I'm talking about? Isn't that so funny? TV88, hey, yeah. TV88 trying to squeeze as much content from the stream. Soon Ace will have thousands of live viewers and no interaction with the audience, but not yet. Thank you, TV88. Elon Bus, I'm glad you were here. Just was gaming. Hey, that's cool, man. I enjoy the rant and rave stream of consciousness element. Okay, yeah, thank you. I'm glad. See, I feel like I'm performing sometimes where I'm like, I'm just trying to think of all the stuff that like has happened since, a lot of, the Dilbert stuff, the like, let me look at our, what was the other one? Oh yeah, that Jordan Peterson video where he couldn't speak out against civil rights legislation because it made him look racist. So he just says, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, something like that. And there was that tweet that was like, can you just, what was it? The Civil Rights Act is an unsolvable logic trap for conservatives until one of them can just admit that individual discrimination isn't that big of a deal and is part of living in a free society. That was Hair Toucher, at Hair Toucher, to give credit. Keith Woods retweeted him. And yeah, it's like people who try to be like Christopher Caldwell, the age of entitlement, they try to describe civil rights legislation and talk about it from this like academic perspective, like it's the second constitution. It's trying to be a second constitution. That's true. But again, it's like, that's too many words, too much explanation. Just be like, yeah, what is it? Freedom of association means people have the possibility of discrimination, but people discriminate against content that they don't like and restaurants that they would never go to anyway, so it's not a big deal. Say it like that. Say it like a casual, non-political person. How would your normie friend say it? Say it like that. Don't become your normie friend. Have the smarts of the dissident right, but just don't talk about it. Don't, you know what I'm talking about? So what's the big strategy? So how do we win in the next election cycle? It's like, oh man. I don't know, man. What do we got? Are there still any good markets on the DW? Daily Wire? What is that? Nudge unit? Are there still any good markets? I used to use... Oh, really? But anyways, Brian, sorry. Just this... I feel like this is a little too casual. It's a little too first thing in my head type. But I don't know, man. It's people go on Twitter and they're like, this is where the elites, get together. This is where the bookworms, again, like the AA thing. We got to cleanse the timeline. You see that juice box? What is it? That's a line in Babylon. That's a little too recent of a reference, but yeah, you see this juice box? You see this man? But yeah, it's like we got to cleanse the timeline because we got Elon Musk at the helm and we got all these philosophers, or adjacent. And if you get some like Keith Woods fans or you get some AF stuff on the timeline, this is like getting us off of, I'm going to lose my bookmark. and I have to have everything organized. It's like this OCD Twitter behavior. No. We can't just have our own corners of the internet. As if, like, I remember Greg Johnson made a point about, we have no control over who identifies with the movement. We can't tell people to not go on Twitter and identify with us. It's just going to happen, okay? Just be ready for that. He said something along those lines. And it's like, people think that they can control society's right here. I can control the discourse. Discourse happens right here. Politics happens right here. And even though we joke about, the manosphere and the pickup artists, well, that is kind of political, because we're not really political for like traditional means. We're in political because we're political people. Politics is the identity. And all this stuff over here, this is just crass. This is Spectator magazine. This is Entertainment Weekly. What are we going to talk about? What is so... It's like when they talk about food, they talk about restaurants as if, I've never tried this. Well, I like, what does Patrick Bateman say about... Oh, gosh. The Wall Street Journal says, this is a beautiful little dish. I think you'll love it. What's the full line? Patrick Bateman. They don't go to Dorsey's, they go to that other... Oh my goodness. It's a playful but mysterious little dish. You'll love it. That's what it was. Oh my goodness, man. These political people, man. It's what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Substack writers. Substack, by the way. I just can't. That's the thing. But that's the to stay on topic with like the postmodernism. Yeah, it's like people are galvanized. The worst personality traits have been convinced that they are the art critics. They can be the elite, Like Nietzsche with Zarathustra, it's like not everybody is supposed to get the book. The very smart people that are self-aware, like if you pitch, the themes of Zarathustra to a classroom, maybe one person in the class is going to fully grasp all of it. And some people are going to be like, no, like, the atheist types, the existentialist types, those are the people that are going to be like, I think Nietzsche means this. It's not, we don't believe in democracy and populism. It's, we just want to we want to talk about stuff so that maybe one person gets it. And then that's all you can do. That's all you can do. But people are like, you go on Substack and then you red pill people and then you completely change the framework and then people get it. It's like immediate political change, immediate development. They want the end of history to happen tomorrow. I don't know. It's a little too. It's a little too, I'm getting a little too much into that part, but man, what else? What happened in February? What happened in Black History Month? What else did I see? What Twitter spaces happened, But yeah, maybe Twitter is like the easiest thing, not so much like a political ideology. Talking about Twitter as if it's like happening in your downtown. And so like when I was talking with that person and she's like, like, what are you guys talking about? Like, where does it come from? And I just say, oh, it's like Twitter. You need to say stuff like, hey, do you have a Twitter? Oh, you're not on there? You need to treat that like they don't have a phone, like they don't go outside. You'd be like, oh, you're not on Twitter? Okay, well, let me just get you up to speed. Okay, so like I'm reading some of these these Red Scare Girl tweets. And they're from New York, so I don't get to go to the parties. But like some people are in the know and they'll report on it. So I'm waiting to hear back, what happened after the big concert, what happened after the big gig. And yeah, they're really trying to like revive a type of Andy Warhol's factory CBGB's type scene. Yeah, but like, you got to know somebody. I'm not totally sure what's happening over there. I hear things. It's like going back to how the millennials would use the internet, or actually maybe like Gen X. I guess millennials would be closer. Like not knowing everything immediately, not having access to what's happening in different countries. You're using the internet as the means, and then but you're still holding on to that local culture. So I feel like Twitter, to talk about like our club, our this channel, if people want to ask me in like in one sentence, what is this? It's Generation Z identity. And it's, putting the social back in social media. Maybe that's like the big commercial type pitch. Bam Margera got arrested. Whoa, what? The phone is very low. Plus it's past 7. Oh, okay, Charles. Hey, Charles Oda, you were like the first, right? Well, hey, thank you, man. Yeah, we'll probably be wrapping up soon. So if anybody has any like last questions, we can wrap up here. But hey, I'm glad to see the chat. I'm glad to see you guys are still out there. Who knows what you guys are up to? Respect your night owlishness, Charles. Yeah, let's go. Nudge unit always end up. Yeah, no, that's the thing. Nudge unit. Yeah, that's the thing. It is about the impulse control. True. I think Nudge unit. I think I responded to something you said earlier. Oh, dark web. Sorry, Truth Mystery. I misread that. Nudge unit. Oh, okay, that's what it was. You were the one that said DW. Okay. I didn't want to neglect. Good night. Yo. Good night, gentlemen. Oh, thank you, guys. Catching just the end. Double dime. Keep up. Hey, thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, wait a second. Oh man, that's funny. I'll address that later, but not in the stream, but just some stuff in the show. I don't know. I don't really want to make fun of Bam Margera because it's kind of a circumstantial thing. But Bam Margera being like part of my childhood, that almost kind of makes sense as to how I got here, even if I did veer off into philosophy and politics. At the end of the day, I'm like smart entertainment, smart, like not like a carnival barker, not like a circus guy, but these writers from the 70s, Tom Wolfe, that kind of a commentator, but always respecting even some of the like trashier media, because there's probably something real somewhere in there that I can't quite articulate. I would have to think on it some more, but that does make sense to give Bam Margera some positive press here. That's almost like the American dream is Bam Margera. Yo, double dime. Thank you, man. Cheers. Thank you for the $2. Appreciate it, man. But yeah. Looking up American Cycle lines. This is feed content. Thank you, TB88. All right. Let me go back up if I missed anybody. While I'm doing that, if you guys have any last questions, I'm glad to see you guys. Some of these names, it's been too long since I've seen on a screen, and so I gotta get back in the swing of things. What do we got? What do we got here? Get a little silent period here. Oh my goodness, My favorite Keith video was on Trump being the postmodern president. Hey, Elon Musk, thank you for saying that. You know, that one also stands out for me too, because he cites, what is it, the New Republic article, which says, you know, postmodernism in relation to Trump. I don't know, that maybe it was me trying to like come up with a way to talk about Trump in a less political way. That one is, yeah, that kind of stood out to me too. That's pretty cool. I'm curious what like the average Keith Woods audience member, does he want it to be more, do they want it to be more book heavy, or do they like some of these you know, unconventional topics? What else do we got? Is 26 and 27, is that still Gen Z if you're a 27-year-old? Oh man, you guys are funny. I like this. Is that true? I don't even. Oh man. Oh man. Non-political women will more easily adopt her husband's politics. I thought you were gonna. I thought what you meant was, I thought where this was going was non-political women, you know, quote unquote non-political women have probably more influence over men because it's, from their perception, it's just being a nice person. You know, she's just trying to be neutral. Yeah, you know, we know that some people have, you know, an ideology buried within themselves, but you know, to try, you know, this cult of neutrality where we pivot to the middle to try and get along with everybody. I mean, you can do that in a social way where you're not so partisan in a public space, but yeah, like the non, like women having this long shadow over other women and men. I thought that's where you were going. It's a completely different claim, but that just that part stood out. Well, I don't know. You know what's funny is you know, people who are into philosophy, it's almost like an interest that can't be passively, you can't be passive about it. You're either all in or all out. And so like for me to cluster towards the pop culture, it's almost like I'm telling on myself. I'm telling everybody this is what I like. And I don't look at that stuff like like it's idolatry. I don't look at it like, oh my gosh, but you know, it's like the reason why the academic agent audience is so book heavy is because, you know, that's what it is, you know, like, yeah, he talks about wrestling and all these other things, but it's like, but it's not really about that. You know what I mean? It's, or at least he doesn't frame it in that way. So it's like, you know, people kind of like implicitly say who they are. Like, yeah, like, you know, I don't want to be Entertainment Weekly. I don't want to be clean cut Vogue magazine, Drake, Britney Spears. You know, I don't want to become the establishment, but there's been a dissident element within the mainstream, and really it goes back to like the 70s and probably longer, but you know, that can be an industry. And it doesn't have to be people who literally paint, but it's like, where's all these jobs? Where's all these magazines? Like the Village Voice, you know, all these things. Like even like Metal Edge does like their own thing. And it's, I don't know, like they don't want to compete. They just want to like be independent. They want to be like hipsters. They want to do their thing in the corner. But the thing they're talking about could have so much potential. And like, you know, Zoomers don't even have that interest because that, you know, that would demand cultural roots. But it's strange. It's like, and so I'm kind of struggling within myself because I'm trying to put these two personality opposites together. And it's like, you're either the Valley girl or you're the quiet goth girl. You know, you don't really get the super charismatic goth girl. You get the Lana Del Rey fan, or you get, you know, a very, very, very upbeat, you know. Wasn't Heather's like a super degenerate movie? Well, I don't know. Again, like I don't want to be degenerate. That's, you know, to watch a movie that like Blue Velvet that is very vulgar in parts, you know, we're not trying to adopt, you know, degeneracy from a right-wing perspective. It's about, you know, it's about identifying the degeneracy, you know. If you can't just talk about porn, but if porn is in a movie and it's framed in a negative way, that opens up the conversation. Hey, you know what? Why is that in a mainstream outlet like a movie? Why is that in a Hollywood funded project? You know, it's almost like there's something more to it. You know, it's like you need an excuse to talk about the things. You can't just talk about the things. Heather's is a chick flick. Yeah, I wonder how, is that like part of the girl canon? Like in that MDE skit, Girl. Is it just part of their is that part of the Jane Austen collection? Is that part of I don't know, who are the others? What is it? Patricia Highsmith. The Eminem's. I missed some of these. Thank you guys. Thank you. It's both because culture and politics play into each other, right? Yes, exactly. Thank you. Big bingo. Bingo for big bingo. Oh gosh, has the chat not updated since then? Okay, maybe that's a nice spot to Oh wait. What, is this another chat? Sorry, I'm a little getting disoriented. All right, what else? What else? Is there anything else? I'd be curious, you know, I'm trying to get people to go to the Tennessee conference. I'm trying to get people. I'm curious. I know it's like a lot of money though, but yeah, I guess if people could meet in real space, that would be beneficial. You know, these kind of like meetups. These meetups could be like epicenters for, like, if people went to New York and instead of Dime Square, they, you know, had, you know, something that people could go to consistently that's not just like a ballroom, it's not just a bash, you know what I mean? It's like, this is just a scene that, you know, kind of like Anonymous, where it's kind of like you don't know where else it could go. But, you know, I imagine a lot of the critiques with Dime Square and the Red Scare Girls is because it's so broad, it's very vulnerable to subversion and, you know, being co-opted. But didn't it come out in that didn't we find out that like Peter Thiel has actually like said yes or maybe to funding one of those girls? Like, it seemed like that came out, but I don't know. I understand why people are just like taking the money and doing the promo, because it's like they feel like they feel like that's really the only like way to participate in politics. But maybe, you know, again, like the stuff that I talked about earlier, talking with this person locally. I mean, this is an organization where she's trying to like get students to talk to each other, and there's an intellectual gap between the left and the right, and we should, I mean, instead of like being under the banner of politics, we could identify as Gen Z, and that's kind of like the paradigm change. But anyways, I feel like I've said that like 10 times, so I feel like I'm back in that conversation from a few hours ago. I don't know. Maybe that's just how it goes. That's one of the things with like a streaming is it's like they're giving you the microphone and you don't have a set time, so you just kind of ramble. Even like saying that sentence I just said is rambling. So no, but that's funny. It's funny though. All right. Okay. Well, I don't know when I'll be back. I'm not sure. Just tune into Thomas TV. That's probably where we can try to find a new space. You know, people kind of see Thomas migrating to different places as like schizophrenic, but that's kind of almost like a test, the fact that that audience is willing to move, you know. So maybe that's part of the development. But alrighty. Well, thank you guys. I'm glad you guys tuned in. I'm glad you guys were interested. And you know, check the Twitter, check Telegram, and we'll see what happens. So thank you guys for tuning in. Love you guys, and probably be back with Thomas in the near future. And I'm glad you guys stopped by. So thank you guys, appreciate you. I'll see you guys. When will it be? I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Alrighty. I want to be sympathetic to Replay Gang. So thank you guys. Good night.